Good Wednesday morning and welcome back to #ZooOpenOnline, our daily Facebook Live feeds. We are live in the Arthropods exhibit of the ProMedica Museum of Natural History. We're going to be talking all things bugs today. So get settled in. Let us know that you're here. Let us know who's watching and where you're from. We'll give a few shout outs till we hit 10:30. Then we'll do our morning announcements. And then we will jump right into talking all things creepy, crawly, and cool. All right, guys, let's see who's here with us this morning. All right, we'll start some shout outs. Good morning, Isabel, Colton, and Cassidy. Hi, Patty and Katie. Good morning, Colin, Drew, and Emmett. Hi, Lincoln and Rowan in Greytown. Hey, Kyler and Canton. Hi, Athena and Caden. Good morning, Larry. Hi, Gavin and Grayson. Hey, Callahan and Bellevue. Hi, Roland. Good morning, Olivia, Emmy, and Isabel. Hi, Hazel. Thanks for tuning in. Good morning, Jonah and Kay. Hi, Alex and Gigi. Sue says it's a beautiful day in Michigan. It is here in Ohio, too. Much better than yesterday. Hi, William and Marcus. Good morning, Tina. Hi, Dean and Evan. Hi, Damien and Aurora and Dominic. Hi, Teresa and Delta. Thanks for joining us. McKinley and Logan. Good morning, Cheryl and West Branch. Hi, Casey. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and get started with our morning announcements. As you guys know, if you've tuned in, we try and give you some updates on all the different ways you can stay connected with your zoo during this time that we are still closed. And unfortunately, we don't know exactly when we'll be able to reopen, but as soon as we do, we will let you guys know here on our social feeds and on our website. Please know that if you are a zoo member, we are extending memberships because we know you can't use them, but we do appreciate your support on that. And we do have a statement about that at toledozoo.org/membership if you'd like to check that out. We wanted to take a moment to say thank you for helping us reach our Giving Tuesday goal. We actually exceeded our goal of $2,020 to help sustain us this year. And that's all because of you guys. So thank you so very much. As always, we do appreciate any and all donations to help us through this difficult time. We do have a donate button at the bottom of our live feed today, or you can always go to toledozoo.org/donate. Also, don't forget, Juke Mode is still doing their Here for Good Toledo Zoo Quarantine Crew 2020 t-shirts. If you haven't gotten your order in yet, do so now. They're selling like hotcakes. Last time we looked, we were #1 on their Here for Good campaign, so keep us there, keep ordering. And yesterday we announced we're doing Mother's Day brunch as one of our meals on the go. You can pick it up on Saturday so mom can sleep in on Sunday. No cleanup, no preparation, just drive by curbside, pick it up. All of the package includes 2 quiches, sides, fruit, mimosas, a native plant, reheating instructions, everything that you need. Go to toledozoo.org/brunch for all those details. And of course, we're still doing our weekly meals on the go. This week, you still have one more day, tomorrow, to enjoy our soft tacos, beef or chicken, and eggplant or chicken parmesan. So get those orders in at toledozoo.org/meals-on-the-go. Okay. We're done with all of our morning announcements, and now we're going to turn it over to Katie, and she's going to talk to us about all things creepy, crawly, and super cool.
Hi everyone, my name's Katie. I'm going to talk to you about some of our awesome arthropods today. And arthropods are a group of animals that share the characteristics of having a hard exoskeleton, segmented bodies, and jointed appendages. So they don't have bones in their bodies like people or cats or dogs. They have a hard outer shell to keep them protected. And our first bug that I brought out for you here is a rhinoceros beetle. And this is the largest species of beetle in the world. So you can see he's got a big horn on his head. That's how they got their name. And that's how you can tell that that beetle is a male. So So the females look pretty similar, but they don't have the horn. And the males use that to fight other males for dominance, for territory, and females. So they're a very cool bug, and beetles make up the largest amount of insects that are currently known to science.
Awesome. All right, and your second animal that you've chosen, and these are all animals that are on display in this Arthropods exhibit here in the ProMedica Museum of Natural History. Katie just went through and chose a few of her favorites to share with you guys today.
Yeah, we do have many species of arthropods here, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. But this is a really cool bug called a leaf bug. So you can see that it looks like a leaf. It uses this as camouflage to keep predators from trying to eat it in the wild. So in captivity here, we feed them blackberry bramble, which is a type of leaf. So in the wild, they'd eat something a little bit different. They're kind of picky sometimes. So you can see this one in my left hand is an adult female. You can tell that she's an adult because she has big wings on her back. And the smaller one on my right hand is an adult male. So they're very easy to tell apart. The male has wings as well, and he can fly a little bit. The female is a little bit too big to fly with her wings, so she can use them to slow her descent if she were to fall off a branch.
They are so cool. All right, and next up is, this is a little bit scary, but way cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to take this one out, but this is an adult female emperor scorpion. So that is how big they get when they're adults, and this one is actually a mother. She gave birth last year to 3 little babies, and when scorpions are born, they're very white and squishy and vulnerable because their exoskeletons haven't developed yet, so they'll actually ride around on their mother's backs for the first few weeks until their exoskeleton is hard enough to keep them protected from predators.
And you were telling me earlier that the sting of this is actually not as bad as we may think.
Right, so as big and as scary as this scorpion may look, their sting is actually relatively harmless. Generally, the rule with scorpions is that the bigger they are, the less toxic they are. There are exceptions to every rule, but generally the tiny scorpions that you might see around will be more toxic than this one here. Their venom is about comparable to a bee sting, so it'll probably hurt, might swell up, but unless you're allergic to it, probably nothing too bad will happen.
And talk to us about what you have there.
So this is a molt. I mentioned earlier that arthropods have exoskeletons. So when they need to grow, they shed their whole exoskeleton all at once, and that's what we call a molt. So right after they molt, they're a little softer, and they're more vulnerable to predators. So typically, they'll hide out under rocks or logs until their exoskeleton is hard enough to keep them safe.
All right, and before we move on to what Katie has told us are her favorite animals in here, we do have a question from James. He wants to know, where do the rhinoceros beetles live?
This species is from Central and South America.
All right, and Olivia asks, do they have names?
These ones don't. Sometimes I do give the bugs names if they're very special or unique, but there are a lot of them here, so it's hard to give them all names.
Understood. Tony asks, Katie, what's your favorite part of being a keeper? Before you tell us about your favorite animal, what's your favorite part of this job?
Well, I actually didn't set out to be a bug keeper originally. I was working with reptiles and amphibians, but I really enjoy this job. The more I do it, the more I learn, and I get to tell people like you guys about how awesome bugs and scorpions and spiders are, even if they are a little bit scary and a little bit misunderstood.
Very cool. And Sue says, since they're in the museum, were they in Ohio? And no, Sue, they're not all necessarily found here. The first floor of the museum is dedicated to Ohio and its habitats and its uniqueness. The second floor is how we connect to different parts of the world. And there are arthropods that are found here, and there are arthropods then around the world. So we want to make that connection, just like there's one species of venomous snakes, so we have the venomous snakes exhibit. And, that's kind of what the second floor of the museum's goal is. But as Katie told us, the rhinoceros beetle is from Central and South America. Where do we find leaf insects?
This species of leaf insect is from the Philippines, so they're more on the eastern hemisphere.
And what about the scorpion?
The emperor scorpion is from like Africa and the Middle East.
Okay. And all right, tell us about your favorites here.
So my favorite bug that we currently have is the Rhinoceros katydid. So there are native species of katydid that exist in Ohio, but this species is native to South America. And I have two very young individuals with me. This was our first time breeding them here at the Toledo Zoo. So I was very excited about that. This one's a little older. He's about 4 months old. And this one is much smaller. This one's probably only about a month old. They take 3 to 4 months to hatch from eggs that are laid underground. And they take about 6 months or so to hit maturity. So hopefully by the time the zoo is open back up, these guys will be big enough to put out on exhibit, and you can check them out when you come back.
That is very cool. And another cool thing, Theo, age 5 in California, is keeping a journal of daily zoo drawings. Theo, we would love to see that, and we hope that you'll add these bugs to it. Danielle asks, how long do the leaf insects live?
They typically don't live very long. As adults, they'll live about 6 months. So that's kind of typical. A lot of bugs don't have very long lives. Like the rhinoceros beetle is only a beetle for about 3 to 6 months of its life, but it can spend up to 1.5 years as a grub, which is the larval stage.
Okay. And Roland wants to know, what do scorpions use their stinger for?
Scorpions use their stinger to catch prey. So these guys here at the zoo, I feed them crickets. So what they do is they catch the crickets in their pincers, and then they sting it to kind of subdue it so they can eat it and have a nice meal.
And Connie and James both asked what your favorite arthropod is, and you told us these guys, but what makes them your favorite?
Well, obviously we have similar names. Katie, they're katydids, but they've been interesting to work with. I had not worked with any kind of katydid before coming here. I like that they're omnivorous, so you can see they really like carrot. The babies eat fruit flies, and then as adults, I'll tongue feed them a cricket every day. They have very powerful jaws, so they can eat an entire adult cricket.
And how big will they get as adults?
They'll be about 2 to 3 inches long once they're adults, and they'll have big wings.
Awesome. All right, and Morgan would like to know if the leaf bug is related to a praying mantis.
They're not very closely related. They're all insects, but leaf insects are part of a group called phasmids, and mantids are kind of their own group. We do have some praying mantises here. They're babies right now, but that's another species that we hope to grow up and have out on exhibit when everyone comes back.
Oh, that will be so cool to see. Ulrich wants to know why scorpions are different colors. You mentioned as babies that they're white.
Yep, so when scorpions are white, that usually just means that their exoskeleton hasn't developed yet. It's made of chitin and sometimes other proteins, depending on the species. But as they get older, you can see this one is black. So that typically reflects where their habitat is and where they live. So there are some scorpions that live in the desert that are tan or brown, and that helps them blend in so they can catch prey. Yeah.
All right, and Alex wants to know what insect has the longest lifespan?
Well, typically, now spiders aren't insects, but they tend to live pretty long, like tarantulas can live 10 or more years. As far as insects, I'm not sure exactly, but that would be a good fact for you to try to look up while you guys are home.
Yeah. And Sam wants to know, what's the most dangerous arthropod?
The most dangerous one that we have here is probably our small desert scorpions. We have some, you may have seen them on the venomous display outside the arthropod room, but we also have them on exhibit here. They're only a couple inches long, and their sting would potentially be deadly to humans.
All right. And Kyler, age 6, asks, which ones were bigger, the male or the female leaf bugs?
The female leaf bug is bigger than the male, and that's true in most leaf insect species. But also you get some species that are parthenogenic, so there are no males at all, and it's just females.
And tell us how that works.
So in parthenogenesis, that means that the female can reproduce and make babies all by herself, and the babies are little clones of the female. So some species have that, and there are no males present.
That is an incredibly interesting fact. So yep, guys, the bigger one that you see that is actually inside the plastic bin here, that would be the female, and the one in the lid is the male, just so that you can identify them. All right, and Charlotte wants to know, why aren't any of them moving very much?
A lot of insects prefer to be hidden. So bugs might seem scary, but they don't really want to come out and try to hurt people or anything. They like to stay underground where it's safe, especially for prey insects like the leaf bug. They like to stay pretty still, so no predator can find them.
All right. Let's see. Alex asks, what other beetles does the zoo have?
We actually have several species. They're very diverse. We've got a bunch of them on display on our beetle wall here. These ones right here are Cab Beetles, and they're native to Africa. And you can see they get their name because they kind of look like a little yellow taxi with windows.
Those are cool.
So that's as big as they get. We've got a couple emerald beetles up there, which are also native to Africa.
And James would like to know, for the small poisonous scorpions and other dangerous insects, how do you maintain their habitats here at the zoo?
We have to be very careful when we're dealing with anything venomous. Typically, we don't use our hands. So I was holding the leaf bugs. I would never put my hands in an exhibit with a venomous animal. We can manipulate their environment with tongs, put food in, or take something out, and that keeps us safe.
And let's see. Catherine asks, do you have antivenom in case you get bit?
We do not have antivenom for our invertebrate species. We do keep it on hand for our venomous snakes.
But the protocols that you guys have in place for the invertebrates keep that distance between you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. And let's see. Lydia wants to know, can you talk about the effects of climate change on arthropods?
I can touch on that a little bit. Climate change is actually having a huge impact on arthropods. We are seeing a decline in species globally. It affects their habitat, their food sources, and insects and arthropods being ectothermic, they rely on the temperature of the environment to regulate their own body temperature. So humans, we can put on coats, we can warm ourselves with our metabolism. Bugs can't do that. So that's one of the reasons they only need to eat once or twice a week, because they rely on the sun to keep them warm, but they can also get too warm, and that will kill them as well.
And one of the graphics that we saw on our way in here is all of the ways that arthropods are beneficial. As much as some people think creepy and crawly, they're actually a really important part of our environment. Talk to us about some of their benefits.
Yeah, they are incredibly beneficial. So a lot of you may know that bees and other insects pollinate flowers. So without them, we wouldn't have food crops or flowers, and the world would not be quite so pretty. We have some cool animals in this room called mealworms, and it's been recently discovered that they can eat and process styrofoam, which is a major waste product that is very, very hard to recycle other ways. They're also good, insects are for cleaning up a lot of waste. So if you're familiar with dung beetles, they're a good example. We don't have them here, but they clean up any poop and waste that they encounter in their native habitat.
Very cool. And yes, we never go through these without giving the family shout outs. We have a great job, Katie. Proud of you. Love, Mom. So we always make sure we get those in here. Devin, age 6, wants to know, what are the predators for the scorpions, beetles, and leaf bugs that you showed us?
So 2 of the animals that I showed you are predators. That is the scorpion and these katydids. They'll eat carrots, but they can also prey on crickets, fruit flies, and other small animals that they come across. And so these 2 are more prey, It's very hard for an animal to prey on a beetle because their outer skeleton is so hard, but they only feed on fruit, so they wouldn't be a predator to any animal. And the leaf insects only feed on leaves, so they would be a prey animal as well.
All right. And Wendy asks, how old can each of these get?
So the beetles, their entire life from hatching out of the egg as a grub to the end of their life as a beetle can last about a year and a half to 2 years, but most of that time is spent as a grub. So they only live as beetles for about 3 to 6 months. For their entire life, the leaf insects probably live, I would say, about 8 months to a year. And as adults, probably half that time.
Okay.
The scorpion can live for much longer. They take a long time to grow up. So I have some babies downstairs that were born last year, and they're still very small. So these guys can live probably more than 8 years. And the katydids live about a year in total. They take 6 months, give or take, to become adults, and then they will generally live about another 6 to 8 months as adults.
Very cool. And Bryn wants to know, are any bugs allergic to other bugs?
Not that I know of. People can be allergic to bugs sometimes. I know friends of mine who have worked with bugs a lot can kind of develop an allergy to them, but as far as I know, bugs are not allergic to each other.
All right. And Anna asks, how long have you been working with insects?
I have been working with insects for just a little bit over a year, but before this, I raised a bunch of feeder insects for the zoo. So we raise our own crickets and mealworms and fruit flies, so I did a lot of work with that for about 3 to 3.5 years.
And Olive would like to know, do you have a favorite bug joke, and can you tell it to us?
I'm gonna have to think about that one. Boy, I can't think of one right now.
All right,
we'll
we'll
think
give
of
her
one,
some
we
time.
can come back to it.
Yeah. And Dean, unfortunately, not all of our insects have names. As Katie pointed out, we have an awful lot of them here at the zoo, and they do have short lifespans, and some of them I'm sure are hard to tell apart from each other, so we don't give them all names. Tony wants to know, what's the most disgusting thing about being an insect keeper?
Oh boy, well, it's not a very glamorous job, that's for sure. One of the most disgusting things to me is that when I mess around with the beetles' habitat too much, sometimes they put out like a really bad smell. It smells like a lot of really sweaty laundry.
Ooh. And Bryn wants to know, are any of these that you talked about, are any of them endangered?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So that's good.
And Amelia would like some clarification. Are all insects arthropods?
All insects are arthropods, but not all arthropods are insects. So arthropods are the larger group that includes things like the beetles and spiders, scorpions, crabs. But insects refers to a group of animals with 6 legs. So our scorpion is not considered an insect, but the leaf insect and the beetle are.
And we actually have some other animals in this exhibit that aren't. We can't see them right now because you were telling us they are going through molt, but we do have coconut crabs. So they would fall under the arthropods with their hard exoskeletons, right?
Yep. So the coconut crabs are the largest species of terrestrial invertebrate in the world, and they're molting right now. They actually started around the time that the zoo closed. And when they do that, they shut themselves inside their burrows, they seal it with dirt, and they stay in there for about 3 to 4 months while they shed away their old exoskeleton, grow a new one, and they actually eat their old exoskeleton to gain back some of the nutrients that they lost.
Oh, wow. That's a cool fact right there. And so crabs and even some geckos would fall into that category?
The gecko is actually not an arthropod. He is in here to kind of bring a little bit of excitement to that exhibit, being that the coconut crabs are nocturnal and they're burrowers, so they're not always out. We've got a gecko. He's running around in here somewhere, a little blue gecko, but he is a vertebrate and he is not considered an arthropod.
All right, let's see. Alex asks, does the zoo have any stink bugs?
We do not have any stink bugs, but we do have some bugs that stink.
Fair enough. All right. Oh, Bryn sent us a bug joke so that you have one prepared.
Thank you.
When is a baseball player like a spider?
I don't know.
When he catches a fly. Oh, that's a good one. And Ulrich, age 4, wants to know, what do you do if you get too many beetles?
Sometimes, we haven't had this problem yet, but if we get too many beetles, first thing we would do is to try to ship them out to another zoo. So not a lot of zoos are as lucky as we are to have this big, awesome collection of arthropods. So we might see if they want some beetles from us, but they do need special permits. So we can't just send them wherever we want. It's a little bit of a process.
But it's a very cool thing that we do share animals back and forth like that. And we are lucky to be able to capitalize on what other zoos are good at that maybe we're not so good.
Exactly.
Very cool. All right. And just so you guys know, we are walking around the Arthropods exhibit on the second floor of the ProMedica Museum of Natural History. If you haven't been in here, we highly recommend coming in. Katie, besides the ones that you showed us on the table over there, what are some can't miss animals in here?
Well, Corey is actually panning toward one of my favorites right now, the velvet ants. So there's one on top of that dying cactus. There's a couple more in here. They kind of go dormant once in a while. They are actually a species of parasitoid wasp. Even though they look like cute, fuzzy little ants, they have a sting and it could really hurt. But they're from Arizona, and they're really fun to watch. And when I went out to Arizona, I got to see some and catch them for myself.
That's amazing. Very cool. All right, what else around here should you say? Okay, you haven't been in the Arthropods exhibit if you haven't seen.
Let's see. Well, we've got a very cool new exhibit coming.
Okay.
This one's going to have a new big species of giant leaf katydid. So we're hoping to get those in once shipping picks up and the quarantine lets down a little bit. So that'll be something we haven't had here before that I would definitely recommend you guys check out. It's one of my favorite exhibits that I've put together so far.
That is cool.
And then of course we've got aquatic bugs over here. So these guys are pretty interesting. We've got a toe biter right there. And you can see it's got some little lumps on its back. If you can see that, they're a little hard to find. But that's actually a male. They carry the eggs on their back. And then the babies hatch and then immediately become independent. And we've also got some predaceous diving beetles in here, which are much smaller, but they have bright yellow spots and they hang out with the toe biters. Both species are native to Arizona, which is interesting because you think of that as such a dry place, but they have some really cool aquatic bugs.
Absolutely. And in the old museum, we had the Goliath bird-eating spider, right? Mm-hmm. Do we still have?
We don't have the same one that was in the original crawl space, but we do have a new one and a couple more off exhibit. She's probably pretty close to her full size. And we know that this one is a female because she molted back a few months ago. She likes to hang out under her leaf. And when we get the molt, we look for certain characteristics, and they were present, so she is a female. We have a male downstairs, so hopefully we can figure out how to get them to reproduce.
Very cool. I will say, when my office was located here in the second floor of the museum in what is now Nature in Hand, that spider was right below us. And almost every day in the summertime, we would hear these crazy screams of kids seeing this huge giant spider. So she definitely became one of our office favorites. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Katie has introduced us to so many cool bugs, and I'm sure we'll have to come back because we didn't even see half of what's in here, right?
Right. We have 39 exhibits in this room, and I brought out 4 different species for you guys. So I hope you can come check out the arthropod room once the zoo reopens, and hopefully I can show you guys some more arthropods in the videos.
Very cool. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. We hope that you enjoyed this look inside the Arthropods exhibit, and we'll see you tomorrow.